When you get the chance to sit it out or dance, I hope you dance. That song has so much meaning on so many different levels. And today, we get to look at it from a couple of different perspectives. Because it's a new month. It's September. And this entire year, we have been focusing on emergence. How do we emerge from whatever cocoon we've been in? How do we emerge from whatever our past life has been? How do we emerge into that which we believe we want to be? And so this month, the theme is about being and becoming. And I'm actually pretty excited that I get to set the stage for it and kind of tiptoe into the topic and set the stage or the foundation for Dr. Petra to go much deeper, much more deeply into how we are being and becoming and how we use spiritual principle in order to do that. But just let's for a minute take the words being and becoming. There was a time when if I saw those two words together like this, I probably would simply think of them as the same thing. But they're really very different. When we are being our full self in this present moment, we actually are reflecting every thought, every idea, every commitment that has come before now to show up as how we are today. I am being Tracy right here, right now, today. And it's easy to get caught up in that. But the paradox is that while I am being my full self right here and right now, I am also becoming more. Becoming who I will show up as tomorrow or next week. Becoming who I aspire to be. And so there is this paradox of being in two places or doing things and being the spiritual essence of who I am that are always bumping up against each other. And this month, we get to dive into that a little bit and really consider, how do I do both at the same time? Why do I want to do both at the same time? Is there any way for me to only do one or the other? And so the question for today is, shall we dance? Shall we dance this dance of life? Shall we do the full dance, or do we just want to learn one step of it and then keep that one step? Now, some of you can think about certain musical artists who you've followed for 15 or 20 or 50 years, but you know they kind of have this one move, right? This one move, like if you go back to Motown days, the Temptations, it was just this one move. I mean, they had a lot of choreography, but you knew this move. If I do this move and don't say anything, you're like, oh, that's a temptation walk, right? Or Mary J. Blige, who is not known as for her dancing capabilities, but she's got like this one move. Well, I'm asking you, shall we dance the full dance? Shall we lead and follow? Shall we learn more than just, oh, you want to do the wobble? I know that, but I don't know what comes next, right? I could just do the one step. So we're going to dance, and we're going to talk about and think about today what it means to answer the question, shall we dance, with a strong and positive yes. Now, some of you are familiar with this particular painting. It is The Tortured Soul by Edvard Munch. And if you didn't know the name of it, many of you have seen it, but it was like, yeah, that angst, that sense of life could be overwhelming, or my life can be overwhelming. And this is a pretty famous painting of his. A less famous painting of his actually does have the title, The Dance of Life. And what I like about this Dance of Life painting is that it shows people in different places and different aspects of doing the dance of life. Some of them are dancing with someone and they're couples. Some of the couples, if you were looking at it close up, seem to be very happy dancing together, and some of the couples not so much. And then there are individuals, they're single people, but they are still in the dance of life, even though they may not be dancing with a partner. And there are some people dancing on the grass, and there are some people dancing on firm, solid ground cement closer to the fountain in the back. The dance of life is not going to look the same for all of us. So let's start considering what it means to be in the dance of life. Well, it's a dance, so we got to do something, right? We've got to move. We've got to be in the business of doing things. What in your life are you doing? Is maybe work related. It may be being a parent. It may be reading. It may be the physical things that you are doing to care for someone else. What are you doing that is a part of your dance of life? Take a deep breath and just lock in on 3 or 4 things that would describe your doingness in life. For me, of course, what comes up is speaking. What comes up is, can you guess? Roller skating, right? What comes up is journaling. What comes up is serving clients with my corporate clients on diversity and inclusion work. There are things that I do that really represent my unique way of showing up in the world. And it's not that there's any one right way or one wrong way to do your life. What's important is that you are doing your life and you are choosing what you want to do, because there must be doing in the dance of life. I love this particular painting by Genevieve Essen. She also has titled this, The Dance of Life. And it's fabulous in my mind when I think about the doing part of the dance of life, because every figure in the painting is doing life a different way. Many of them are doing life in poses and ways that my body doesn't work, but it's quite beautiful. Right? So the doing, if we look at this not just as positions of the body, but the way we show up in our doing, then maybe you can relate to that. But doing is not enough and is not the totality of our lives. So often when we are in our classes and we are doing our spiritual work, we begin to focus on being. Who do I want to be? Who am I? How am I living the spiritual principles? And for many people, when they first begin to think about the beingness of life, they think, oh, that means I need to sit in a lotus position and close my eyes and take a deep breath and just breathe in the silence. Breathe. That's the being part. Now, let me get back to doing, right? Right? Like we separate that being and we make it seem so solemn and so sacred and so quiet that it doesn't fit with the rest of our lives. The beingness is required, though. And sometimes it's silent and quiet and still, and sometimes it's not. But we need to understand we are being our divinity, right? The being is the divinity, and the doing is the humanity. Is there anybody who understands this and who is relating to it? Like we are both human and we are divine. I am human, and the doingness is me expressing that, and I am divine, and the beingness is me expressing that. So another artist, right? Another artist, another piece of art, another painting titled The Dance of Life, Anushri Tiwari captures in a way that resonates with me, at least, this idea that I face into the world, and it is through my thoughts and my connection with spirit that life develops and life unfolds and life takes form in my life, in my world. So my question for you is, are you consciously choosing your doing and being? Or are you just letting it happen? Like, roll of the dice, whatever is happening in my life. I'll deal with it, whatever comes up. Or the coin toss, like, heads or tails, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm not claiming it. It just happens. It's just my life. Or are you consciously choosing between doing and being and then integrating them as well? I don't know. I know sometimes I'm consciously choosing, and other times I think about what's happened in the last week and I go, well, wait a minute, how'd that happen? What was that? Like, where did that come from? So we're going to do a little experiment. I need somebody who's in the room who considers themselves skilled at coin tossing. Come on, just come right up here by me. If you can toss a coin, right? If you can toss a coin and choose heads and tails, I need you to come right here and stand on the black tape. Give Carmen a round of applause. Now, I didn't say that you had to be a football referee and toss it the way they toss it in NFL football. I'm handing Carmen a coin right there. Now, I need 2 more volunteers. I need a volunteer to represent this half of the room, to just come right here at the bottom step, and a volunteer to represent this half of the room and come right here on the bottom step. Come on, wait. I know it's Labor Day, but yeah, I'm asking you to do some labor. I mean, I understand. Okay, great, right there, Rhonda. And a little bit closer, because I'm going to get behind Carmen. So you just don't want to block Carmen from the camera right there. All right, so Cleo is representing, if you are this side of Richard, Cleo is representing you. If you are in the room and you are this side of Richard, Rhonda is representing you. Okay? Got it? Are you with me? Are you even here? Yes? Yes? All right. Now, online, you get to choose whether you want to be on Cleo's team or Rhonda's team. It's up to you. All right. So, Carmen is going to flip the coin, toss the coin, and then we are going to, don't show them, all right? And then you'll get to choose heads or tails, okay? Let's go. Okay, what do you choose? Tails. So it's tails over here, and it's heads over here. What is it? Ha 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 ha. So what is it?
It's heads.
So that means everybody on Rhonda's team, you get to do for 60 seconds. Stand up if it's helpful. Do. 60 seconds is beginning now. Richard's going to try to get an example of some of you in the room. You're doing. I'm watching the second hand. You're doing. Yes, you've got to set the example, right? Do. 10 more seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Very nice, very nice. The tails you get to be for 60 seconds. You can be silently, you can be in movement, you can be in many other ways, but let's have you be. 60 seconds beginning now. There are many ways to be, to allow the divinity to come through you and be your experience. Be. 10 seconds remaining. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Okay. Both are needed. Do you get that? That you need the doingness and you need the beingness? Okay, you called it tails, right? Okay, so you can call heads or tails. You're going to toss the coin again. What do you want? Heads this time again. What is it?
Heads.
All right. Do you want to do or do you want to be? You want to be this time. All right. So 30 seconds of being for this side of the room and anyone online who chose to be on Rhonda's team. 30 seconds, please begin. Being. You can be silently, you can be still, you can be moving. I'm watching the clock. It's only 30 seconds. There's so many ways you can bring your divinity forth. We've got some walking meditation happening, some movement. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And the other side gets to do. 30 seconds, let's go. 30 seconds, let's go. Let's see how you are doing life. Oh, hugs, interacting with other people. I see some dancing way back in the back of the room. And you online, what do we see from you? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Thank our volunteers. Would you give this? Now that may seem a little silly. And it is the realness of you remembering that you are always doing and being. Being and doing. If you truly want to live in a way that moves you to emerge into your next best self, it is important to both do and be, and to do that consciously. To do it consciously. In the Sunday morning class this morning, there was an aha, and the word that kept coming up, or came up 3 or 4 times, was discipline. And we don't like that word, discipline. We are like, discipline, that sounds like work. That sounds like my parents telling me what I need to do. But no, what Michael Beckwith teaches is that we can reframe the word discipline when we recognize that it is our choice to do the things that allow us to create and live the kind of life we want to live. And when we realize we are the ones making that choice, it is no longer discipline, it is blisscipline. And that the blisscipline comes from repeated action over and over that results in us living the life we love and contributing to a world that works for everyone. That's why we do our spiritual practice. That's why we read what we read and affirm what we affirm and pray what we pray and teach what we teach. Not because you're going to be punished by some external force if you don't do these things. What we realize is that we really punish ourselves even more because we don't get the results we want because we won't do the work that we know we need to do. We won't reach out to the spiritual community to support us when there are things that are going on in our lives because we think we're supposed to always look like everything is working. But part of the doing and part of the being requires us to take the actions that integrate the two. Ernest Holmes teaches us that we should choose that which we wish to embody, and by constant attention to it, take on all its characteristics. Repeating, we should choose that which we wish to embody, and by constant attention to it, take on all its characteristics. Third time you read it. We should choose that which we wish to embody, and by constant attention to it, take on all its characteristics. Is there anybody in the room or online who has heard thoughts or things? Of course you have. So we choose with our thoughts what it is we wish to experience, what we wish to embody, what we wish to have in our lives. But that is the mental part. Then we must follow it up with paying attention to the actions and the characteristics that are required from me in order to step into that, or in order to have a TSRW, in order to demonstrate it, in order to manifest it. It doesn't happen by magic. It just doesn't. So if you need a little help with that, or you want to practice that intentionally this month, then I want to encourage you to look at the home study guide for September, because it starts also with a different song or poem called I Hope You Dance, because this month that's what we hope, that each one of us will dance. We'll dance in our lives. We'll have both the idea and the action that are related to creating our best life. And that in spite of the paradox that might exist, you know, the paradox of trying to figure out, wait a minute, we teach about love, but we also teach about law. Those aren't the same things. Those seem like love seems all soft and fuzzy and law seems all hard and mean. Well, it doesn't when you really understand it and when you understand how they work together. But this month, we'll have an opportunity to look at that. We'll keep looking at being and becoming. We'll keep looking at other spiritual principles that seem to be in conflict with one another, but actually are not. So, what does Mark Sanders have to say about I Hope You Dance? I hope you never lose your sense of wonder and you get your fill to eat, but always keep that hunger. May you never take one single breath for granted. God forbid love ever leave you empty-handed. I hope you still feel small when you stand beside the ocean. But whenever one door closes, I hope one more opens. And he goes on to write about this idea that, again, it seems like life is full of contradictions or competing ideas. Emotionally, isn't that somehow how it feels? Like the ideas are competing with one another? But you can still navigate all of those competing or conflicting things when you stand firmly in spiritual principle. When you consciously integrate your humanity with your divinity. This is what we all are doing, and sometimes we get a little surprise when we realize that that is what is happening, or that is what has brought us to where we are today. So, little story. Last week, I had a very interesting experience. And I'm going to characterize it this way. I got fired from a contract, and I quit a different contract, all in the same day. Now, for those of you who don't know me or don't know what I do, one of the things that I do is I work with corporations and with leaders all over the country on inclusion strategy, integrating their commitment to inclusion into everything that they do. So it's not just recruitment, or it's not just, employee relations, really marketing, customer service, all of the aspects, and a lot of time I spend with strategy. How do you make this a part of your strategy? So there's a client I've been working with for 8 months, and about a month ago, I said, this really doesn't feel like it's working out, because they're not really using me. They're making all these decisions, and then they're telling me after the fact, and then I'm going back and saying, here are the downsides of what you're deciding. Where I prefer to work with clients where I am with them as they are planning, so we can avoid having to go back and change things or fix things like it didn't have to be broken in the first place, right? So about a month and a half ago, I was going to quit this client. I was going to basically ease myself out of the contract. Here's what I've done for you. It seems like you were really in a good place, and it looks like my work is done, and here's some ideas for you going forward. And if you ever need me again, please feel free to call me. But basically, I was quitting the client. Well, the day before I was sending this email, I get an email from one of the client contacts who is like, Tracy, we really need your help. We've got this big meeting coming up. It's a Friday. It's a Thursday. We've got a big meeting coming up on Tuesday. And she listed all these things she needed for me to do. I'm like, oh, I guess they do need me. Okay, I will do this work. And I ended up spending almost 40 hours between Thursday night and Wednesday helping, doing some of it and coaching on the other. So I didn't send them the email. And then it's a month later, last week, and I find out they did use all the work that I did for them, but all the deadlines that were coming up in August, I was like, what are we doing? They missed the deadline. So it's okay. I hope they don't blame it on me, blah, blah, blah. And I get an update. They've taken these pieces and they've done all this stuff. Now, how does this relate to the doing and the being and using spiritual practice? Here you go. I was surprised, and that surprise immediately turned to anger. They're just wasting my time. Well, wait, they misused. I sent them this, but they used it wrong, and now it's going to be a problem. Look, I'm going to have to fix these 3 things. And I was angry, and I was frustrated, and I was all of those emotional reactions. And something made me take a deep breath and go, what is the actual spiritual truth? Number 1. Number 2, Tracy, how do you want to show up? Because I was ready to get on the phone and tell them all the reasons that they had just ruined my work and made my life miserable. And I was like, oh, they're doing what they think is best for them. Now might be a really good time to be thankful for the work and be thankful for what they did use and let go of the rest. And then send the letter saying, I'm no longer working with you. But not out of bitterness, not out of anger, but from that place of, this is complete. And from the place of, I had a really good laugh. Because I was like, if God were a person, isn't that kind of what we do? God says, here's all this information. Here's all these ways that you could approach this problem. Here's some spiritual practices for you to use. And what do? We pick and we choose and we go, well, I kind of like that, but I'm going to modify it and do it this way. Or we say, I'm going to do affirmations, and I do them for 2 days, and then for the next month, I've never heard of an affirmation. And I'm like, oh, you do this to the divinity within you all of the time. Get back in alignment. Now, am I the only one? Yeah. Am I the only one? Okay, thank you, Linda. All right. Am I the only one who forgets that the macrocosm, what's happening in universal mind and universal experience, is also what's happening in our personal experience? So that's the contract or the engagement that I quit, even though I didn't use that word with them, but that's really what I did. And if anybody from that client ever sees this talk, they'll be like, you quit? I thought you just said you weren't available to work on the next project. And then the one I got fired from, the same drama was happening. And if you know me well, you know that anytime there's drama happening, for me, it is a call to spiritual practice. Because I notice it, and I'm not used to having drama in my life. And so I notice it, and I'm like, wait a minute, stop, back up. What's going on? So the same organization, but a different contract working with a different group of people. I'm talking to someone who is like not in that group, but is a high-level executive. And so she's explaining to me, we've got all these things that we think we'd like for you to be doing later this year. And so we're going to move you off of that particular contract. And then, we'll be sending you some information to do a proposal for this new stuff that I'm telling you about today. Okay, let me back up. Did you hear me? She didn't say I was fired. She said, we have a lot of things going on, and we're just going to move you from that project and give you an opportunity to do a proposal. She ain't even really giving me new work, but an opportunity to do a proposal for something new that may be happening in the next 3 or 4 months. Tracy's translation, oh, just fire me from that. Like, don't tell me why, don't tell me what's going on, don't give me any information, no complaints, no experience, no expression of a problem, but we're going to move you. And my question was, okay, so after the meetings today, or am I finishing out what we're doing? No, it's effective immediately. So they're not expecting you to show up for the meetings this afternoon that are on my calendar. So in my head, I'm like, I just got fired. Wow. I'm okay with getting fired. Just tell me why. Tell me I did something wrong. Tell me I left something out. Tell me you don't like working with me. Tell me something. So my human brain began working like human brains work. I started worrying. Well, what did I do wrong? What did I do wrong? How's this going to affect my reputation? Oh, my goodness. I want to make it right if I did something wrong. How can I make amends? Well, why didn't they tell me? If they had a problem, right, my brain is going nonstop. Now, I don't know. Maybe that doesn't happen to you. But, 30 minutes later, I'm like, let me cast the fishing rod and bring it back in. My brain is out there running the 200-meter sprint. I'm like, no, come back, come on back, come on back, come on back. I had to align what I was going to do, what words I was using, how I felt, the doingness of how do I respond to this, because it's out of my control physically, and to balance the doing, which wanted to lash out, say mean things, get revenge, write bad articles and reviews, do all the human stuff that my brain wants to do. I had to be. So I marched myself into my meditation chair and sat down and set a timer for 15 minutes. Tracy, meditate, get in alignment with spirit before you decide anything, and definitely before you do anything. This paradox of living the human experience guided by your divinity is no joke. Things happen in our lives. We get sick. Others we care about get sick. We lose a job, or in this case, an engagement. We fall down. We hurt someone else. We hurt ourselves. We get rejected. We get abandoned. But it is always up to us to choose what we will do about that. So in the song, Beautiful Union, that last part of reminding us there is a beautiful union between our divinity and our humanity that we can not only connect to, but use to navigate the hurricane-like weather that we face in our lives, is where we're going to be going all month. We will be being and becoming at the same time. We will be growing and expressing who we are right now at the same time. We will be integrating love and law at the same time. And if that is a journey that will be helpful for you, then I encourage you to start this week and to be with us every week this month as we dive more deeply into that. So let's anchor this with a treatment. Let's anchor this and in our hearts and in our minds, accept that we have the power. We have the power to live a life we love and to integrate our humanity and our divinity. Take a deep breath. Let's go within. I know that there is only one life. There is only one presence. There is only one mind. It is the source of all life, and it has created all life. It has created my life. It has created the lives of everyone within the sound of my voice. It is the source of life in all of its many forms. The idea of humanity, the idea of a human being who also can access and express the divinity within, is real. And right here and right now, I simply claim that it is possible to be and become at the same time. I claim and declare that now is the perfect time for the best of spirit to emerge in me and within everyone within the sound of my voice. In fact, the time for emergence is present for all of life, whether they can hear the sound of my voice or not. I claim it for all of life, all forms of life, all creatures, as well as all humanity. This is a treatment for change. This is a treatment for expansion. This is a treatment for the evolution of life in all of its forms to be affirmed right here and right now. For there is only one eternal moment. There is only one eternity, and it is expressed in this moment, and for that I am grateful. I'm grateful for the beautiful union between humanity and divinity. I am grateful for the opportunity and the willingness to say yes to the best life possible. And oh, from this deep, deep gratitude, I just breathe and release into perfect spiritual law and action these words, these intentions, knowing that they are already fulfilled in universal mind. Let it be so. And together, let's affirm it by saying Ashe, Aho, Amen, Amin, and so it is.